This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
To the highway in a brand new day. Over the rainbow, gotta let it go. So far. Fast to freedom. Stars tonight together. Here everyone is singing. 你看到我就怕，头皮发麻，我的手。
Welcome back to Open the Voice Gate, King of Gate Update Edition for May 26, 2020. We are members of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. You can find our podcast on the Voices of Wrestling feed or on our own dedicated Open the Voice Gate feed on any podcast platform and application of your choice. You can find us on Twitter at Open Voice Gate. I'm one of your hosts. It's your old pal, Iron Mike Spears. I'm joined as always by my co-host, Case Lowe. And Case, it's gone from 24 to 12 to 6, and soon we'll be at 4. King of Gate keeps on rolling along. He keeps on trucking. And boy, there are some things we were right about, but boy, things have gotten kind of a little bit to a point where we're like, okay, I'm ready for this tournament to be over.
I certainly hit that point by what will be the most recent Sunday, by the way people hear this, the second round of the C block matches, after what I felt like was a really fun Saturday with the B block stuff and Ishida versus Okuda and Doi versus Kai. By Sunday, when that rolled around and you had Ada versus Benkei and Dragon Dia versus Sakamoto, I kind of hit a point where, okay, I've seen this. I know what this is. I'm ready for something new. And Dragon Gate is doing the best they can with the hand they've been dealt. But King of Gate at this point is missing something. It is missing that thing to pull people in. It sucks because this is a hype tournament with big names in it and big stakes and big implications. And it reminds me of like the situation with Major League Baseball right now where, baseball has been dying for the spotlight. There's not a ton of stars in the league. What could they do to get things back on track? Well, they could find a way to play games at this time where none of the big four sports are going and there's nothing on TV and people are stuck inside. But instead you have, a labor dispute going on and it seems like they're making no progress in that regard. Dragon Gate had a shot here to turn some eyeballs their way and to get people talking in a time where, with the exception of the big AEW match or the blunders on Mondays and Friday nights, there could have been a spotlight on Dragon Gate. There could have been matches to watch. There could have been guys to talk about. And there's been some very good stuff in this tournament, but nothing has been great. I have yet to have a match where I have to, message people and say, go out of your way to watch this. It's empty arena wrestling, but this is good, I promise. That hasn't happened yet. And after watching 6 shows of this format and knowing that there are more down the pipeline, I'm not necessarily looking forward to what's to come.
And it's one of those things that there is a focus on Dragon Gate. I mean, I have, at least through my experiences, I've had people been like, oh, a lot of people are talking about Dragon Gate now because Dragon Gate's happening versus like New Japan or companies in Mexico. So I'm kind of wanting to get into this. And they're like, I hear y'all talk about these matches. Should I pick up this tournament? And almost universally, like the idea, and I'm not the only one who's like recommended this, like go back to the May 22nd empty arena show, the first one they did at Kobe Sambo Hall. Watch that one first. I think it's still on YouTube for free. And if you like what you're seeing there, that will get you a better vibe of what you're getting yourself into before you go for King of Gate. And it's one of those things that it does seem like they're building to a point. As we're recording, Japan is opening up or has a plan for opening up. I know that Kansai, the area, and Hyogo, the prefecture that Kobe is in, was not as hit up and hit as hard as Tokyo, and that's one of the advantages of Dragon Gate being a Kansai company, is maybe they would be able to get some stuff going and be able to like look at dates inside of Kobe, go up to Sambo Hall and get, I know the number they said was 50% or 5,000 up to a certain date, and then 50% total. Get 300 people into Kobe Sambo Hall maybe for a finals. Like, that's not outside the realm of possibility here. And I think that's like what people can hope for coming out of this. But just like looking at this, like there has been some solid matches, not anything other than like making my list for being like 3 3/4 stars matches case. Not like anything that at the end of this year I'm going to reflect back highly on. It's just been a lot of stuff going through it. A lot of like talking about that C block show, a lot of kind of disappointment from guys you were going to hope would either perform a little better, or with like this, the overall like what's going on here, it would, no big surprises here. I mean, I think we each picked all the block finalists easily, and now we're to a point where it's like, okay, Yamato's been solid in this tournament. Kaito Ishida has been solid in the tournament. Those are probably my 2 MVPs. But I look at the rest of this tournament, I'm like, okay, I wonder where we're going to get to, because I know that I said either Yamato or Ada is winning this thing, and you said Naruki Doi, and I don't see a lot of reason for either of us to change our minds about that today.
No, I'm still firmly locked in on Naruki Doi winning. I think you're right. I think Yamato and Ishida have had a great tournament. I have really liked the work Naruki Doi has done, and unfortunately, for as much as I pimp the house style of Dragon Gate, and for as talented as I think these guys are, because with the exception of the elite tier workers in New Japan, your Zack Sabre Juniors and your Okadas and your Tomohiro Ishiis, I, obviously think the Dragon Gate guys are the best wrestlers in the world. But what stuck out to me during the B Block show was that the best matches, of this tournament are, with the exception of Yamato, well, it's Kai that's had good matches, and it's Kaisuke Okuda who's had good matches, and it's Ishida. And that B Block show was 2 matches that are the antithesis in a lot of ways of what the house style in Dragon Gate is. And it bummed me out seeing that, just because I think so highly of these workers, and typically I think it's maybe the most universally not appealing, but I think it should be the most universal style in wrestling. And we're seeing in this tournament that in order to deliver, you almost have to subvert those expectations, do something very hard-hitting and very quick. And I like that style of wrestling, so it works for me. But you're seeing your dojo guys like A10 Ben K disappoint to some extent, which is a bummer. So Mike, we've now had 6 shows. We covered the first 3 on the first episode of this we did. Of these last 3 shows, are there any matches that stick out to you of like, yes, you need to go watch this?
Well, I mean, there was a match that I said is very much a me match and not at all a you match that I really enjoyed just for the sheer lunacy of it. So, I mean, I liked the tag match on Block A with Kness and Gamma versus Konamama Ichikawa and Sachihoko Boy, but it's also, how do you like that kind of style comedy and put up with that? So I'm just going to put that off by the side, but
12 minutes, Mike. That match went 12 minutes.
No,
Yamato
that match went 5
KZ
seconds. It went 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, then it went 12 minutes.
So it's longer. We're closer to 13 at this point. Mike,
4 falls.
KZ versus Yamato, that's 2 of the 25 best wrestlers in the world. That match went 14 minutes, and you're telling me that I've got to sit through, and I like Stalker Ichikawa. We all know that. I love Kness. Gamma's the best worker in the world, but you're telling me I got to sit through almost 14 minutes of that bullshit in an empty arena? I was offended.
I mean, I thought it was charming the fact they decided to do the exact same old shit, and that amuses me immensely. But yeah, like getting away from that, KZ versus Yamato is exactly how they should work these kind of matches, especially with KZ being this person that is the closest thing I would say to a upper mid-carder in any promotion in the world other than like Tomohiro Ishii, that like he will beat everyone you expect him to beat, but when you have him go up against the top guys and against the top guy in Yamato, you have an innate struggle that draws you into the match more. And I felt like that Yamato eventually like getting out with the skin of his teeth and just going, planting him for Gallery and saying, I'm done with this. No, I'm done with you for the match. Thought that was really compelling on night 1. And really, if you're looking to like set some time aside to watch some matches, like really watch that one, watch all of the Block B stuff, and read a book.
I spent a lot of my Memorial Day outside reading. I only read nonfiction, and I'm at a point in my life where I'm pretty much only reading oral histories. And yesterday I got lost in a book outside in direct sunlight when it was about 85 degrees out. And I'm extremely sunburnt today because not once did it cross my mind to wear sunscreen. Wasn't even a thought. And then I came back inside and I immediately saw the discoloration on my biceps and on the tops of my feet. And I knew I was in trouble. And indeed, today I have been in quite a lot of pain. So if you're going to read a book outside, watch King of Gate outside, whatever it is you do, please wear sunscreen because my body hurts. I co-sign Mike's thoughts on KZ versus Yamato. The thing with KZ is that I am so morbidly curious to see what his role in the generational warfare angle would have been had it not been disrupted by this pandemic, because watching Yamato versus KZ, it really struck me that KZ is now at a point where, yes, he is the greatest lovable loser in a post El Generico wrestling universe. Like, KZ is great as the guy that is good but not good enough. But KZ might be too good in that role, and I just can't help but wonder what is in this guy's future. I mean, it seems insane to think, to look at KZ in 2017, let alone 2013, the guy this role played in the role this guy played in the company. But you look at 2020 KZ, it's like, son of a bitch, that's a world champion right there. I mean, that is a guy that should be winning the Open the Dreamgate Championship at some point in his career. And I really wonder if this generational warfare was going to elevate him to that spot. And now that we're in King of Gate, well, it's safer to give Yamato the win. Yamato is the true ace of the company. But I'm fascinated by KZ's current role because he's almost too good to lose. Like, it just seems insane to me that this guy is losing all these big matches because he continuously delivers. But I think the Yamato versus KZ match is the best match of the tournament. Night 2, I think, watch the block matches from that show, and then I'll move on to night 3 just real quick. We'll circle back to it, but for me, the best match was actually the bonus 6-man tag with Yoshino Fuji and Kanda versus Oji Shiba, Tamanaga, and Kota Minoura.
Oh, that was a blast of it. Like, really, these bonus matches, it's good to, like, get this. It's something that maybe this is probably a better topic for a longer episode that we're keeping this tight here for this week. But getting Kota Minoura and getting Oji, who is a part of the Bulk Club, into the ring for that match, and it just was like a really fun, stiff match. Don Fuji was just having his time, beating up people. Masato Yoshino taking it off as much as he's able to take it off this time.
A big, like, hands around the back of the head and, like, a big exhale. Like, that was Yoshino's night, which is like, I'm going to take it easy. You guys knock yourself out. This is not for me. I will do my moves at the end, but this match, I'm going to give it the Seinfeld hand wave. Not for me.
I remember him doing 4 spots in this match. The Whisper.
That's exactly how many I counted as well.
Poetry in Motion. Sling Blade, Torbellino, Sol Naciente.
Call it a day, boys. No reason for any other moves.
Real house show vibe.
It was not the house show dive. It was the house show vibe. That is exactly it. Mike, you mentioned the Bulk Club. Would you like to run down Dragon Gate's newest unit, the unofficial unit that is the Bulk Club?
Well, it's a subset of the Dragon Gate army, the Trueborns, that if you've watched these shows and you don't keep up with these guys on social media, hoo boy, you're in for a treat, because Benkei put on like 20 kilos of mass over a month, and he's not the only one. Oji Shiba is looking like a tank. Jimmy, bless his heart, he's put it on too. He's looking like a big dude now. And like, it's not just like that these guys are just like getting big because they aren't doing stuff. These kids are still having like full training days. They're still like having the same thing, but what else is there really to do? You're not going to shows. You're not setting up shows. So you're just going to be continuously eat protein, go do your morning workout, lift weights, eat, do your afternoon workout, eat again, probably maybe go lift some after all that. And that's what these kids have been doing for the past 2 months. And boy, the bulk club is taken off. The one person I'm surprised has not joined the bulk club, but I think that's also because he's one of the 2 members in the tan club, however, is Keisuke Okuda.
Well, Okuda, his hype beast shenanigans have not stopped.
Oh, no, they
he
have
is
not.
Still decked out in Supreme and gold chains on a daily basis.
He's a Balenciaga guy, more so than anything.
Yes, I think that is a very good way of describing that. As for Jimmy is twice the size of the person he was when he came into this company.
And it looks good. It looks good on him. Like, let's be fair.
It's muscle mass that makes sense. My fear is that Ben-K is getting too big. As for Jimmy, he's bulked up to a point where now he looks like a legitimate wrestler. He's no longer the Kenny King level preliminary wrestler. Like, Jimmy looks like he can beat some guys. The issue is that Jimmy clearly has not worked a ton with this new muscle mass. And if you watch his match, there are 2 different times where he goes to do a springboard where he sets it up kind of like a lion salt where he's diving from the inside onto the middle rope. He does that twice in his match, and both times slips on the rope and looks very, very uncomfortable doing it because he's now throwing his body around in a completely, it's a different body. I mean, we saw the same thing with Ricochet, where 2010 and part of 2011 Ricochet was like, a grocery store bag in the wind. He could just, throw himself around and not really fear anything, but he put on some muscle and it became an entirely different body, and his moveset had to change because of it. Jimmy is not as drastic yet. He's also missing tribal chest tattoos, which I hope he avoids, but Jimmy is now a completely different person than the person he was when he came into the company, and I really like that he is bulking up. I hope the booking will reflect his more serious look now.
And it's something worth noting that they brought him back considering all the changes and all the situation with Gaijin, that they like Jimmy. Jimmy is a guy that I think I was really enjoying him on the undercards last year, and I think that he's really improved. And it's going to be exciting because if he's someone that can just spend as much time as possible, I think this is another 6-month stint for him. So I think it's going to be like last year. He could be someone that like leaves this dojo at the end of this year. And really, if there are any independent bookers who want to try to get in on a new hot wrestler, Jimmy is one of them. Like, Jimmy could be a guy coming out of it. It's just going to take time. And it's something that I have all the confidence in the world he'll have it. But I mean, it was interesting because you had like this 5-minute Super Shisa and Ho Ho Loon match versus Problem Dragon and Jimmy. 5 minutes. And it was like a good time. And just Block B was just a good time. And I mean, the bonus match on Block C, another good time. OG's getting some ring time. He desperately needs ring time. Kota Minoura, he's not worked as much as you think. And that's going to be a problem. And this is something that, again, I want to say for a future episode where we just talk about some topics, because I have some ideas in mind where we just get in a conversation about stuff. But these guys getting this time here, and this time is so crucial in their development. And unless like they are able to find more ways to get this is important for your OGs, your Minonors, your Jimmys to be able to have these bonus matches. So I find them important for their development. But we cannot really go without talking about the best night of King of Gate, and that is the May 23rd show, B Block Round 2. We talked about it a little bit briefly about how these matches were completely different than usual. We had Kaito Ishida versus Keisuke Okuda, kind of the one rivalry that's kept on during this whole entire thing case, and then we had Kai versus Naruki Doi.
Yeah, I've said my piece on these matches for the most part. I will say I loved the finish of Ishida versus Okuda. I was really unsure of how they were going to do that, because it's 2 guys that still need to be protected in the booking. Well, they do a very clever count-out finish. It didn't feel lazy. It felt like a worthwhile chapter in this larger story that's being told. And then Doi and Kai, I could tell from the preview video that the Dragon Gate Network uploaded. I was like, Doi versus Kai looks pretty good. And I was looking forward to it going in, and it's a match where those 2 just beat each other up, and then Doi won with another V9 clutch, so I expect that to come into play in the block finals, that roll-up that he does. But the Block B matches have, for the most part, all delivered up to this point, and I think the May 23rd show, top to bottom, has been the most enjoyable of any of these shows.
Yeah, so we've mostly touched on Block B. Block A, the only other result we didn't talk about was Diamante defeated Yosuke Santa Maria in 9 minutes with the Volta finale. It was fine in my mind. You know, it was there. I mean, Diamante was going to win that match. Like, that was just one of those things that it just was, we had that, and, you know, I'm someone that, Yosuke is another interesting person that, you know, like, that there's a ceiling, and that was kind of the ceiling. But then we get into Block C, and, oh boy, which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, I don't have a ton of thoughts on Daya versus Sakamoto. It wasn't a bad match. It was kind of like the Yoshida match where it's like, okay, I know the spots that are going to happen in this match, and they occurred, and it wasn't offensive. I mean, it was a fine match. It was just lifeless. Had the match before it delivered, it would be like, okay, that was okay. And then we had this other good match, but instead, Ben-K versus Eita became the biggest disappointment of the tournament. And I mean, Mike, we haven't talked about this. How did you feel about Ben-K versus Eita?
It just had zero life. It had nothing going on with it. One thing that they have been doing, which I kind of like, is people on each side of the war who have been eliminated come out for their compatriots matches. So RED has had a lot of people eliminated. So you've had like Hyo, Yoshida, Shimizu out for basically every single one of these matches. So there was a little bit of life, and you had Strong Machine J out consistently for Ben-K and all the Trueborns. So, like, that's nice because then you get a little bit of crowd noise with that, which is desperately needed. It just felt like it was like a 15-minute finish, and then the Imperial Uno, which has always been kind of Eita doesn't really have a flash pin. He has his super kick, and he got a super kick and win. It just was one of those things that I know that this is a cool-off period for Ben-K, and that's fine. It's just one of those matches that for Eita, who's someone who's really made his career in a lot of ways and got him to this role where he's pushed as a 1 when he's really a 2, out of great King of Gate performances. That's his bread and butter. Did not happen at all. Was very kind of just rote. And it kind of was the same thing with Kazuma and Daya. I wish Kazuma did a little bit of bullying and we got to see a little bit more of an underdog Daya getting it out by the skin of his teeth, and that didn't happen.
I think the Ben-K versus Eita match is a far bigger indictment on Eita's star power than it is Ben-K's, because the fact is we've seen Ben-K deliver in big spots. We've seen
against Eita.
Yes, which I know that was the finals of King of Gate last year. I have no memory of that match, though, and I was looking for a review real quick, but I don't know if you reviewed the show, but I know I did not review the show. So for whatever reason, I don't have notes on it. I don't remember that match. But Ben-K headlined Kobe World last year, and he delivered, and he headlined the back half of the Big 5 shows last year and delivered and looked like a star. Eita, for all intents and purposes, has been a very good Twin Gate champion at times, has been someone that is consistently pushed, but Eita's best matches have happened in the mid-card. I mean, ultimately, great matches against Akira Tozawa and Susumu Yokosuka. You and I, if we train for a month, we might be able to have those. Eita's shining moments have been, yes, in King of Gate, but they haven't been headlining appearances. They haven't really been anything that's truly mattered in the landscape of the company. When Eita's put on top, whether it be Antios or this RED run before Pac, he's floundered in that position, and this was a shot with all eyes on him. Yes, it was an empty arena match, but if you have star power, if you are someone that is going to succeed in the big spot, we've seen it with KZ. KZ killed it in both of his matches. Eita failed here against Ben-K, and it was one of those things where I just look at Eita, and, I go so hot and cold on him because I hated the Dragon Kid feud, but then there's that good Eita that's out there, that 2014, 2015, 2016 Eita. I know that's deep down in there somewhere. He was turning it around before, the world shut down. But you look at him here and it's just like, man, what is this guy? Like, I mean, what is his ceiling? He's not a Dreamgate champion. So why is he in this upper echelon of talent when I don't seriously believe that he could beat them, because I don't think he could put the company on his shoulders and run?
Well, I mean, that's why I proposed Eita as a possible champion. Because out of everyone, and this might be a big surprise, for someone who's been in the main event scene for better parts of 2 years now and has been a major part of the roster and seeking back an excursion, he's the oldest person not to have a dream key. He's the oldest person not to even, like, other than the Apuestas match, not headline a Big 5 show. He's not, like, had this level. So there's this perception gap on that he's booked really strong, but he's not booked super strong to, like, the extent of where you would think someone at his seniority and at his rank should be pushed. But at the same time, you get stuff like this and you're like, should he really be pushed like this? And you see crowd responses and you're like, should he really be like this? And it's like a big conundrum because you have in the other block someone like Kaito Ishida, who you watch him and you're like, I could see projecting him out to be like a Dreamgate challenger. I could project him out possibly as a big heel unit leader.
And he was over. That's the thing. You were the one that really brought it to my attention was listen to the calls that Ishida had been getting. I mean, as a face and as a heel, he was undeniably over.
And now he looks like a total psychopath, and it's great.
I never feel that way with Eita. Eita's there.
He would get sympathy. He got a bunch of sympathy calls in 2016 when he started to put it back together in the whole Super J-Cup thing. Like, he was over, but it wasn't to an extent that you would turn on a Kobe Sambo Hall show or turn on a Kyoto or Hakata Starlane show and you would hear a lot of like Kaito Ishida calls, like to the extent that Kaito Ishida's gotten.
And while you're right, and I agree, and you know it's great that Eita got a rub from Jushin Thunder Liger of all people. That was also 4 years ago. I mean, we are, knee deep into this extended Eita heel run, and there are moments that have been really bad, and there are moments that have not been as bad. I don't know if I can pick out a continuous stretch of heel Eita, especially in a post T-Hawk world, because for all of T-Hawk's faults, I still thought the tag team with T-Hawk and Eita was great. But in a post T-Hawk Dragon Gate, I mean, what's there for Eita to choose from? What's on his resume other than a Dragon Kid feud that I thought was redundant and drug on way too long?
I mean, it's tag team work, and that's not something you could really put on the laurels of who should be your heel leader. And
again, RED was in such a better position when Pac was there because Pac was a legitimate top of the line guy.
And
when Pac is not there, it is a
Eita.
huge problem. Yes, exactly. You could hide Eita. When Pac is not there, and when they are not putting Ishida ahead of Eita, which I don't think they're wrong for not doing that because Ishida is the Brave Gate champion, and I think you have to keep that title within a certain limit. But now Eita's your top guy, and it's like, let's talk about these block finals. It's Yamato versus Diamante, which, Diamante has a job to work with Ultimo, but he's improved, and although there is a less than 0.01% chance he would win this match, like, okay, fine, that's the roll of the dice. It just so happens Yamato is going to have, an easy time there. Then the B block finals is Ishida versus Doi. It's a champion versus champion match, and it's two guys that feel really hot right now. And then your C block match is Dragon Dia, who for the past 7 months has been the hardest push act in the company, someone that is continuously getting focus and attention and big wins, and he's wrestling Eita, which, like, yeah, it's a big win if he wins, but it's just Eita. It would be a much bigger deal if he beat Ishida, title or not.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I could see for Dia, at least. The storyline has been that he's had nothing but RED members he's faced off against, and ones that have been bigger than him, and he's been able to take care of them in pretty convincing fashion. So it's like, okay, now he faces the ringleader, and this is why I said I could see Dia winning the block. Because then you could bring Eita back through the second chance Battle Royal and put him back through, and it's fine. They've had winners of the Battle Royal and El Numero Uno win the whole entire thing. So, like, it's a weird situation, and it's one of those things that Yamato versus Diamante could be really interesting. Just with, like, how Yamato just is kind of has his own style, and Diamante. I mean, Ishida versus Doi, that's my most anticipated match of the tournament. As soon as I had an idea that this was going to be the way this match had to happen. So I'm really stoked for this, but then like Dia versus Eita, I can go either way with this, and at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, Daya beat everyone in the heel unit. That's good for him, but what does it mean when you're beating Eita? And then Eita beats Daya. He should be beating Daya. Congrats, Eita. You might win the big one, and you might get like the award of winning, which is something that he needs, but it's not going to matter, you know?
Yeah, so let's quickly review our block finals predictions because we went 100% in the second round and accurately predicted the 6 guys that are left. But for the 3 matches in the Battle Royal, Mike, who did you have winning those?
I had Daya beating Eita. I had Yamato beating Diamante. And I think I had Doi winning. And then the Battle Royal. And then the Battle Royal, I had Eita winning the Battle Royal.
Yeah, so I'm at Yamato winning, Doi winning, Eita winning, and then I have Yokosuka coming out of the Battle Royal. And the Battle Royal will take place on May 31st on the Dragon Gate Network. And that will also feature, and I think this is the last thing we have to cover on the show unless I'm forgetting something, but the UT return match. Mike, it is UT versus Ultimo Dragon. What is this match?
It's a match that I'm incredibly here for because if UT is sticking with Yaveo, him and Ultimo could have a very interesting match.
I think this is the match that we will learn a lot about who Ultimo Dragon is at this point in his life. And that maybe isn't as personal as it sounds, but I mean, I've gone up and down on Ultimo since his return. I am glad to an extent that he's back. I also just have, small issues here and there. If he eats up UT in this match, I am going to be very, very upset because UT is someone before he got hurt who, this time around, because he had a career of injuries and quite honestly, it was looking like a failed dojo kid up until he adopted the Yave style, was able to turn it around, and was in that cluster of Ashita, Jason Lee, Akuda, UT, KZ. Like, those were the guys that were consistently delivering. And right as UT was hitting his apex, he got hurt. He's been gone for basically a year now. Him and Ultimo is a fascinating match when you look at the egos involved, when you look at the career UT's had, and then also the in-ring style. It's a chance for Ultimo to possibly work with someone who is going to slow things down, who's going to keep things on the ground, but UT is as good of a grappler as the company has at this point.
Yeah, I mean, UT, up until he was injured, was my worldwide technical wrestler of the year. Like, he was doing unique things. I will still, if there are wrestlers listening to this, you need to watch this UT versus Super Shisa match from Prime Zone last year. It was one of the most unique matches that I've seen in a long time. He does something that's very special and it works very well for him. And with Ultimo as a guy who's in his 50s, he's I don't think he's ever gonna hit that Asai moonsault. He's just slowed it down, and with someone like this, that UT should be someone he's very comfortable working with because you look at the people that he was primarily working with in Mexico. So there's a lot to be done here. If Ultimo eats him up, that's terrible, and that casts a shadow that I thought might not be a shadow anymore. And for UT, he really could have been like one of the big just tragic stories of Dragon System. I mean, I would put it up there with like Yamamura in a lot of ways, and someone that just turned into Fiberglass Katoka, like out of that era that just a lot of people just really got hurt, but he seemed to put things together. And I'll say this one thing: this Ultimo match is a good match for him to ease back in on, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's one thing for, him to go in there against Mochizuki or Doi and, get his head kicked off.
Susumu.
But against Susumu, exactly. But, Ultimo, it's exactly that. It's easing him in. And I think we're going to learn a lot about where the company values UT at this point. I think we're going to learn a lot about where Ultimo's head is at. And I hope that on this show that is just the second chance battle royal and then UT versus Ultimo, I hope we get a good match out of it.
It's going to be interesting. I think that with how this tournament, not to like pat ourselves on the back about, it's very easy to go chalk on this tournament, but this May 31st show is probably one of the biggest moments of intrigue in the promotion, at least when it looks like things might start opening up and there might be some sort of Kobe World.
Indeed, Mike. I'm looking at my timer, and we're at 34 minutes, and we tried to keep these to a half hour. Is there anything else you needed from me on this show?
Nope. Hey, we're 3 minutes down from last week. We're getting better at this. Maybe by the finals, where we have just the semifinals and the finals, we'll be down to 30 minutes on the dot. But yeah, that's it. Let's get our plugs out of the way. You can find me at Fuji Hey or at the podcast account Open VoiceGate.
I'm on Twitter at _InYourCase, and also tweeting from the Open the VoiceGate podcast Twitter account at Open VoiceGate. Mike and I have been trying to tweet more from there. That is all I have. Mike, is that all you have?
That's going to be it for this episode of Open the VoiceGate. We'll be back with you next week with your next King of Gate update. Take care.